Irish sky, old stories hit high, tales of struggle and strife. Keep your head in the fight, broken bones in the street. Ain't no place for the weak, from the land of the brave, where the words cut deep. Coming next on the air now, feel the despair. Generation X, shout out, shattered somewhere. Rising up from the dark with a fire and spark. Rage and passion combined to leave a lasting mark. Coming next, shouting loud, voices from the crowd. Through the mist of...
Welcome back to the Common X Podcast, the show where real people talk real life without the filters. I'm your co-host, Ian. Dude with the beard is Jared. And writing in today with us is our brother, Joey Devil Doc Martinez from the Joey Devil Doc Talk Show. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, bro. Pretty dang good, man. I'm glad to be here.
That's good to have you, man. Joey, you've been blowing up, man. We just wrapped up your show. Now we're flipping the script and putting you in the hot seat. It's good to have you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate the warmth and the love.
All right, brother. Now that I got you here and I got you cornered and pinned on our show, we got to talk about the thing blowing up on the internet right now. We saw the video where 6 Democratic lawmakers told U.S. troops to refuse illegal orders, and now the Pentagon and FBI are investigating. As a Marine veteran, what was your reaction when you saw that?
So to kind of clear up the mud, yes, I served with Marines, but I was in the Navy as an FMF corpsman. And I think that helps me kind of clear up the mud a little bit better than most, because when you serve as an FMF corpsman, you're not just seeing it as a Navy sailor. You have to use the purview and the perspective of your Marines and their mission, right? The whole conversation, I think, is very dramatic, okay? The refusal of orders, what is a lawful order? You know, why did we have troops putting not fences, but the little posters on Mexican ground, and then we had to go and, you know, take them back, and it was a slight intrusion of 15 miles or whatever it was. You know, what is the real issue here? And I go back to that those identity politics, right? When you come from a place of mutual agreement, we start to see why people are trying to push that button of, is it legal? Is it illegal? Because they're not actually saying what is or is not legal or illegal. They're just leaving it open for people to be very dramatic about. One of my colleagues, you know, fellow brothers, Dakota Meyer, you know, came out publicly to kind of say, if you even attempt to deny a lawful order, you know, you're literally feeding into this sedition. You're feeding into this congressional-led, I don't want to say whatever treason, but it's not, because what it is the conversation of, okay? But we're also sensitive that when something like that comes up, this is a great reaction, us talking about it, people having their opinions out, right? And with it, I think we're going to find that path forward where we mutually go, hey, yeah, dude, you know, in the military career, you do have to follow certain orders, and they are, whether or not legal or not, sometimes the parameters of what you can do is you have to still follow it, okay? And then the aftermath, yeah, there's routes to correct it. And I think that's where we're at politically, administrationally, and publicly. The people need to really hold people accountable and just talk about it.
All right. Because, I mean, you've got the other side too, right? Trump fires back, calling it sedition, punishable by death.
Yeah.
Joey, does that kind of rhetoric help or hurt when the country is this divided?
When it comes from a leader, all right, and it comes from the most powerful leader in the world, period. One of the richest men. He grew up, you know, in public eye. He won the candidacy twice. When somebody like that isn't as tactical in their approach, yes, it could be skewed as, hey, we're putting gas on the fire. When you understand the individual, though, he is not actually doing the things that we perceive him to be. Of course, the media is going to do what it does, and that's part of the that's the click-through rate. We got to validate what we're doing here, right? And that's something where I think the population is kind of disconnected on how things actually operate. Is he being kind of hyperbolic? Absolutely. That's who he always is. That's what he always done, right? The orange man be mad, okay? Right. But in truth, what we're doing as a public is giving him too much power of what that consequences of his words are, because he's not taking any action. Is it something that is being said? Absolutely. We say a lot of things in anger. And I think if leadership understands that it's going to be perceived as that harmful, then now we have a better purview of looking at what are the next steps. Because if the president is being emotional, saying hurtful or harmful words, then what we have is a world that literally hangs on his word. It's not a king. Okay. He's not an oligarch. He is not a dictator. He is not a tyrant. However, if you were to look how the left is discussing things, it is definitely what we would feel. And if it was the right, you would think he's a savior. I don't think any of those things are accurate. I think what we have is a man who was raised by a generation that is a little bit more less tactical, less soft touches, more pragmatic in their approach. And it in this society, as we see not just leadership but men, of course, is going to ruffle feathers, dude. That's just where we're at.
It kind of gets to accountability too, though. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna hold these six senators accountable for what they said, like, okay, Trump, you got to be accountable for what you say. Like, I said on his thing today on pardoning the turkeys, I'm like, it's pretty simple to pardon two turkeys, but he launched into this diatribe, and I'm just like, come on, dude, just like pardon the turkeys, do your job, get done. But no, he talks about, Prisker and the low intelligence people that are over there and just like continually ripping on people. I'm like, look, man, if you're gonna, it goes both ways. If you want to hold people accountable, then you need to hold yourself accountable as well. But I don't
Absolutely.
see that coming. But whatever.
Me either. And that's something that, let's be honest, dude. Have you ever seen anybody be held accountable at that level? Because I haven't, and I would love to see it happen, right? But what
Right.
he's doing is, of course, everybody sees it as a stirring the base, a political agenda, dot dot dot. Is it denigrating the fabric of the United States? Absolutely, because the moment that you exclude or alienate people, either by truth or attempt to communicate, because I'm not trying to condemn anybody for doing or saying what they're doing, but let's just say we're clearly not communicating. We're attempting to communicate. You're saying it perfectly right, right? If the individual that is throwing that first stone or not even aware of how much weight their words carry, then I think that's kind of the basis of accountability that we have to start and meet some, common ground, some pre-negotiated minimums, right? Sir, we really want to focus on this. Can we have this conversation without being emotional? Can we have this conversation without being swayed by partisanship? And can we get genuine leadership? That way it's clear, there's no static, it's all signal. Regardless of who's in that chair, regardless who's in that office, I think they have that obligation to the nation, period.
Yeah, man, and you're one of the strongest voices fighting for veteran mental health right now. You know that? I mean, when you look at the situation today, are vets getting the support that they need, or are we failing them?
So that's a great question. Thank you. First, for it's seeing me that way. Thank you. That's a profound sense of effort and pride that I put into it. When we say we are failing, I think that's the kind of issue that we have also when presidents say words that are impactful. If we aren't at the heart of our actions or our results, the we, I don't feel, has any failure in any of it. Okay. If it's not the we who's administrating the veterans affairs, the mental health outcomes, if it's not the we having the conversation, I want to immediately remove any kind of bond or judgment or failure to the entire public, because I don't feel that we are engaged enough as a public to say we failed each other at all, anywhere. Now, is the administration, i.e., of course, Trump, he is, the executive branch. Okay. The VA is directly under the executive branch. If we wanted to have immediate change tomorrow evening, or just tonight, actually, just like pardoning the turkeys, okay? Pardoning the turkeys is literally a showmanship thing, okay?
Mhm.
But the power that he has to change things for veterans is immediate. Now, does he understand that completely? Is it partisanship? Is it structural, administrative, money? Absolutely. Are we failing? Yes. In the sense of what we have done is not outcome. The outcome has not equated to a worthy enough investment. This is something that I've worked on for many years. For the past 30 to 35 years, the Veterans Affairs has consumed $4.2 trillion. That is a T, not a B. Okay. Annually, in 2025, it consumed, I want to say, $380 billion. In 2026, it is slotted for 450 some odd billion. Okay. I will never say at any point in time or any level that that investment is what our return of interest is getting us, is what I would count as a positive outcome. Okay. Are we failing at it? I don't think we're putting in enough effort or enough information or even discernment to see whether or not we are failing, because I would hate to point a finger at, let's say, a director or an administrator that is trying their best, but their hands are tied behind their back. That's something that I intimately saw in Iraq, in Al Qaim, Iraq, when I served the nation, our brothers and sisters in the Marine Corps, our Navy, and I served the people of Iraq there, right? What I learned was, if you're fighting a fight with the hands tied behind your back, you're always going to lose. Okay. Now, when we talk about logistics and supply, that's kind of where I like to head the conversation, especially when we're saying, what do you mean by all this money? Where is it going? Well, there's three main departments: the VHA, the VBA, and the death and cemeteries. Okay. The vast majority of the dollars, Washington Post was accurate, that goes to directly veterans for compensation. And it is in the number of about 190 something billion a year. Okay. That's a huge number. Okay. In that number, it is distributed to 6.7 million veterans that are participating within the Veterans Affairs at all different types of levels. Okay. Some of them make co-payments because they're only this rated or that rated. And there's a lot of different benefits within the VA that are slotted, that are mandatory budgeted. The outcome, though, of that $193 billion is perceived as a waste for a lot of people, because the determination factor of what is a disability, what is an injury, is kind of up to opinion. When you see opinions come out like that, when a gentleman that is a doctor and is an amputee and has access, or like a gentleman like Dakota Meyer that has a Medal of Honor and has access and quadruple VA benefits, and quite literally the coddling of the infrastructure that created the war system, the industrial military complex will coddle an individual. They will provide them with everything that they would need and then more. And their perspective will shift from, well, I don't need it, so these guys don't need it. And if I can do it, they can do it too. But not every answer is going to work out for everybody. So the key to these breakdowns of numbers, the 6.7 million, which veterans are, receiving a quantifiable, a huge amount of money. Okay. But when we actually look at the numbers, there's about 19 million of us. So we're saying less than half of us are participating in an overbloated, heavily invested system that points the finger immediately at the service of the persons that they're obligated to serve. Okay. They immediately point it at the veteran. Washington Post opened my eyes to this whole perspective and purview that if you have a benefit, of course you're getting it. The Wounded Warrior Project and all these systems, the big 6 nonprofits that are receiving anywhere up to several $100 million a year in donation dollars, right? Their goal is to maintain that system of, look at what we're doing. But the effect, this is where I will say I have failed, even in my own show. And I thank you, for that amazing compliment, to discuss openly out of fear. Okay. If it is failure, then it hurts people. Okay. And if it's success, it should make you feel good. So let's focus on what our success points are. We're able to spend $451 billion a year. Awesome. What is our outcome? 6,400 suicide deaths annually. That's what's reported. What are we dedicating specifically, since you brought it up, mental health? What is our actual money investment towards mental health? Roughly $14 billion. Cool. There's a lot of programs that are available to veterans. However, if they do not know how to manage it, if they don't know the criteria for qualifying, and if they don't speak specifically as if they're a subject matter expert, they are opportunized against, they are leveraged, and then they are exploited. The VA system itself, yes, you can apply. The vast majority of people, okay, when you apply, You may or may not understand the system you are being involved with now. This is not a high, I want to say high outlook for the individual client. This is a negative culture towards veterans immediately. Every single one of the people at the VA, every person I ever cross paths with, they may act as if like they're trying to help me, but once you start digging in, they have that perspective of, well, veterans are just trying to gain the system. They're very misinformed or miseducated, and they're inflating things in order to get things. And that is because of the dynamic of conversation between what we are conditioned to be as a military person and what others are allowed to be, regardless of what their experiences are. In the military, you are not allowed to go to sick call if you need to. It has to be a low level where you can go to an easy access medical facility and even get an appointment. Okay. If you need something severely, the questions become, am I going to be sidelined? Am I going to lose my career? If I open my mouth, is my chain of command going to come down on me? Are they going to turn their backs on me? Okay. That is the leadership qualities that I see penetrating all levels of administration as well as leadership in the military. We have forgotten what valor means. We have forgotten what honor means, what integrity means. Okay. But that's fine. All right. When we discuss these larger picture games, like with the Secretary Doug Collins, next this December, we have a show with Steve Schwab, the CEO of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. The whole mission is a very, very powerful one. We want to help a veteran. We want to help their families. But like your question kind of leads us to is, how is it that we're even analyzing and observing the situation in its totality? If it's not in its totality, why do we have the opinions, and why are we moving forward with the opinions that we have? If we can't come to a basis of agreement that, dude, we really want our money to go further and every dollar to really make its impact, I'm 100% on board with it. If it starts from the veteran community outward, that's kind of why I love being on your guys' show to begin with this past year, because bridging the gap between us and civilian and military mindsets, but bridging the gaps between our communities is where these solutions, they'll show themselves, they'll reveal themselves, because the data is irrefutable. Yes, I agree that we are failing as a nation. Do I think it's our fault? Yes, because we are ultimately our own masters. We may not feel that way. Okay. And I'm telling everybody, all the veterans out there, I know you, I know what you feel, and I know what you mean when you say, I can't tell people the truth. I say, absolutely. You're afraid that your Second Amendment rights are going to be taken away. You're afraid that your benefits are going to be taken away. You're afraid that you're going to be ashamed and shunned. Your vulnerability may have been leveraged against you. You may have been exploited, but that doesn't change the truth. Okay. If you need help, you need to find it. You need to seek it. And whatever it may look like, right? It could be industrial hemp. It could be a podcast. It could be politics. Get in that arena. Get dirty, get muddy, just like we did when we were getting ready to rip out to Iraq or Afghanistan or just join the military. You got messy. Okay. Let's get back to that confident and proud United States of America, where we're not afraid to get in the mud and get a little dirty, right? We can throw some punches, man. I could take a punch still, even though, hey, I was just complaining about my equilibriums, right? I'm like, hey, I can still take a punch, bro, right? But if we're punching each other not with the means to fix the problem, we're just angry. There's a culture in Mexico, right, where they literally fight each other as a part of the celebration. You got beef with me, dude? Yeah. All right. Hey, we're throwing those manos, bro. We got these chingazos and patazos, and we are wailing, bro. And then afterwards, you're drinking together going, oh, man, that was great. I was really pissed off. Da, 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 da. In the Marine Corps, okay, there's this thing called the tree line. Okay, I was very, very privy to this tree line, and given the culture and the community of Marine Corps, I loved it. You may not agree with me. I may not agree with you. But if we need to take it to the tree line, my rank comes off, okay? My titles come off. This is man to man, me and you. We have now delegated all our communications to physical touch now, because now the superior person needs to lead, regardless of wrong or right. that individual, that man, and usually it's the man. I'm not saying women don't dude, I've seen women whip ass, okay? But what I'm saying is the majority of them are men and their egos are flustered. Okay, so they go out in the tree line, they throw those putazos, right? They get the chingazos, and before you know it, they beat the living shit out of each other. They're exhausted. They look at each other, they go, okay, bro, like I get it. I love you. All right. Those nights are the best drunken nights I've ever spent with my Marines. Why? Because they were allowed to be men. Okay, these are warriors. These aren't administrators. Okay, they're grunts. They're individuals that will sacrifice their bodies for us. They will literally destroy themselves. I've seen men decided that the Marine Corps was more important than their family, their children, themselves, their God. They serve that Marine Corps as if God told them to. It is not a branch of the military. It is a cult of the Navy. And if it's not understood as such, then their sacrifices, they get confused, not the individuals themselves, but the individuals observing it. Why is this man serving at this capacity? Well, he's just selfish. No, you're projecting that selfishness because you are allowed to do this in the United States. You're allowed to condemn people because they used words that were a little bit of offensive, right? If I say the F word, I get it, right? Some people are like, yeah, dog, that's my dude. Some people, they hear the F word and it's like, you have literally offended my ears. And they come with it as if, like, if you intended to. And I speak very vulgarly, but it's not perverse, right? Why? Because I intend to communicate, not harm. When you meet a Marine, you go out to a bar, right? This is the love and the relationship level. I would never pay for a drink. The moment the people around me knew I was Doc, especially in Marine Corps areas, San Diego, Coronado, Camp Pendleton, Oceanside, you name it, you're out there with your men and you're building this camaraderie. Does that mean that's what everybody sees? No, they see a bunch of dumb idiots getting drunk, making mistakes. Of course, we're young men. That's what we do. But now if we were to, as a society, have that same romanticized belief that their service is worthy of $451 billion, that in order to even touch that money, you have to be honorably discharged. Okay, there's a lot of routes to fix that, but let me tell you how difficult that is. It's very difficult. Okay, very difficult to change your paperwork. Now, the majority of people that apply for benefits, because they're so regimented and conditioned by that military mindset, which is beautiful, they don't understand that the system that they have embarked with, which is the VA, is not there for their benefit. It is there as an insurance company and will conduct itself as such. Just like CalPERS and all your state, revenue generated insurance policies and everything else, it will treat you as if you're the lying son of a bitch that it believes you to be. This isn't mean it's personal. That's one of the things that I always tell people: manage your expectations, manage your emotions, because the process is illy communicated on both sides, to the veteran community and to the civilian community. Now, if the civilian community, while I was in school, believes that I'm getting so much money that it's disgusting and that I have free school, I'd love to teach people this. It's not free school. I paid into that. I used $500 out of my paycheck for a series of paychecks, right? Then I paid into a compounding investment fund that is called the GI Bill, or, whatever educational plan you tap into. The United States government takes that and creates money, much like Wounded Warrior Project, like I was telling you guys earlier, and it compounds in interest. Okay. Those interest pockets, those buckets of accounts, right? They're massive. The vast majority of the money that are in these accounts do not get touched, especially while people are in service, because there's just too much operational components. The chain of command, although it is advertised, join the military, you can go to college while you're in. No, that is not how it actually operates. You were told that, you were supposed to believe it. Once you get in it, just like any kind of job after you graduate college, that's not how the rubber meets the road. Okay. When we break those things down, all right, and we see it, much like what I had to tell one of my instructors at my audio engineering school, it's a perception that's valid to the purview of the individual that is limited into their knowledge. They may be amatheic in its approach, meaning they're solidified in their intelligence, and it's stupid. Okay, it's stupid. It's fucking idiotic. It has no validity. It's a fallacy, but it's a self-righteous bias component of what it means to be free. Okay. This is our freedoms as Americans to get things wrong. Okay. That is where we get things right by saying, dude, I think Donald Trump, what he said by sedition and fucking let's say he came out tomorrow and goes, we're fucking shooting them. All right. I honestly believe that that will never occur. Okay. Because of the type of institutions that I've served in. The distrust that we have in our nation allows us to become so emotional that we believe anything. We believe anything. There's people out there right now that don't even know that the Taliban's receiving $40 million a week for compensation for the deaths of the people we went out there and had to do a job. All right. That's what we were told. Okay. The United States military is sure as shit our dog. If we're not responsible for our dog, this is the consequences. 30-year wars, okay? Industrial complexes that are making trillions of dollars. If we as American people want to criticize not only the man on top, the Donald J. Trump, right? J.D. Vance, I would say I'm more critical of. Why? He's a United States Marine veteran. He conducts himself as if he forgets that. That's the most valuable asset that we have right now in the White House, yet it's not even attainable to entertain a conversation because unless you align with their propaganda, their agenda, you are perceived as a threat. Threats aren't what they used to be anymore. You literally used to have to be a tactical, tangible threat. Boone Cutler, before he passed away, really impressed upon me the fifth and sixth generational warfare. I'm trying not to cry by bringing him up. Boone Cutler, I fucking miss you, bro. So when he and General Flynn would have these conversations of not only psychological warfare, but the tactics within it, that was his specialty. Mine's medicine, his is psychological warfare, not like psychological medicine. So when me and him would rap, the number one profound thing that we would both come to the realization of is the intentions that we have are everybody's thinking they're the good guy. Okay. Eventually, if we assess our intentions and our actions, we have to start distributing, like you said, accountability. And if we are in leadership positions, the United States is the best, worst leader of this in the world. We don't want to take accountability because it looks weak. The perspective of asking for forgiveness or correction, even if I made a misstatement right now and I go, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was this, this, and this. Somebody would say, well, you retracted your statement. I'm like, no, I attempted to communicate and it failed. So I'm using new words and you're using it against me. That's normal. This is a family dynamic that we're looking at. You know, this is a tumultuous season for our nation. But at the end of it, I do see profound opportunity in these things, you know, difficult questions, perceptions, and just honestly having an open heart, open mind, and an open conversation like this.
No, that's great, man. What's something you wish every civilian understood about veterans?
Whoa, I love you.
Love you too, man.
The number one thing that I would wish as a community is for us to look at each other, not perceive each other, not presume or assume, look at each other. Okay. If you can say no matter what, you're worthless to a person and we don't want to have a communication or participate, let's ask what that reason's why. Why is it that way? The only thing I would ever ask the American public to do is to look at where they're being consumed. What is their influence? And if it's a positive influence, why do they have such a negative perspective of the world? Okay. In life, we get these choices, right? We can see trials and tribulations as a moment for potential growth, or we can see it as destruction and chaos. Out of order chaos. No, well, I mean, yeah, technically, but out of chaos, order, right? In the Marine Corps, it's something that they thrive in. Being an FMF corpsman and serving in the Navy, I saw very unique persons, characteristics, principles be developed in men and women that if we could accept the facts that that uniqueness transcends service, that we are one of the same, regardless of what I did or did not do, that we are a nation divided greatest to the point because we don't see each other as the same. There's no reason for it other than, like I said, identity politics and fear. The majority of people that I talk to when I mentioned that I served, they go, "Oh, I thought about serving. I really wanted to join the Marine Corps." That's usually it. And I go, "Awesome." Half of the veteran community will fucking rip that person apart because they dared say they could have, would have, should have. Okay. Because the military mindset has only do. The fact that they perceive a situation where somebody's saying, "I wish I did," or "I wanted to do," as a negative opinion, or "I wasn't good enough," or they couldn't make it in the Marine Corps, not my corps. I'm like, okay, good. You need that pride because you need to be the animal that you are. But let Doc be the animal he is. Let me be who I am, right? I'm guiding the efforts of all our grunts and all our military guys from the front by saying, "Hey, we made a mistake. The only thing that we need to do to fix it is make a choice." It sounds pretty simple because it is. But the moment that we talk to each other and realize, "Hey, this guy was in the military. I have nothing in common with him." "Well, yeah, you do. You both like pizza? Well, that's pretty good. You like hats? All right. You like podcasting? Better. You like hemp? You like industrial hemp, not just hemp, woo-hoo. But you like industrial hemp." Me and you guys could talk for thousands of hours all the time, every day, right? And it's not an echo chamber. It's a reflection of truth. It only benefits people when others see that reflection of themselves within what we're doing. Of course, that's the entertainment business. But like I said, the only thing I really want civilians to really do is slow down, see themselves for the most important value that they are. They are our American citizens, our brothers and sisters. The individuals that serve on our military, they're getting huge flack, a lot of stigma, a lot of judgment. That is part of the burden that we carry. And we're not coming around to pop people's bubbles, but definitely leading from the front to say, "Hey guys, all that energy, whether it be negatively perceived or not, it would fit and it would best serve us all if we just tried to come to some small agreements, whether it be, hey, I see you as a man, I see you as a person, I see you as a leader, I see you as a human being." And it doesn't need to be grandiose at first, but if we're not making the attempt to remove that difference within our community, then we're allowing it to remain true through silence. As much as I could sit, talking a lot about it more, that is the very simplest thing I wouldn't even say I want. I would beg. I would supplicate. If I got to be able to go to, Donald Trump's office and be like, "Yo, motherfucker, this is what you need to know, bitch." I would be like, "Hey, first and foremost, sir, let me just tell you. And also, hey, everything that we just talked about." Because when people really allow themselves to be vulnerable, the solutions work themselves out as long as we're not trying to I call it crab trapping. As long as we're not trying to squirrel fuck or just pull each other down, societies, they kind of do what they're meant to do. And I think that's where we're at as a nation.
Man, that's
Yeah,
awesome,
it's a
man.
good. Yeah, I know, and like you said, like I think VA's trying to change things, and I think they just had a recent rule change that allowed what is it, other than honorable
Mhm.
discharges to be able to get VA benefits. Because I know a Marine that he has a disallowable DD 214, right? Like if you
Mhm.
ask for it, people show up and ask you like, "Why are you asking for this guy's DD 214?" Right? So he's had a really hard time getting benefits, but since that recent rule change, he's been allowed to be able to apply for benefits, and they're starting to help him. So I think
That's
there are
beautiful to
some
hear.
changes, right, that are coming around and allowing, because I mean that would go to like your spec ops teams or like SEAL teams too, right? Like if they did anything top secret, you usually can't see their DD 214s. So that in the past prevented them from getting benefits. So I'm glad there's some people out there, still fighting for veterans like you, right? And having these rule changes help these guys get more help.
Exactly, man. And it's the small steps that add up, right? If it's first acknowledging the fact that when we're excluding people and we're determining whether or not they meet the requirements for service compensation, right? Or whether it's different programs, there's excruciating depths and levels of classified stuff. Okay, it's not a conspiracy. Okay, Of course there's classified stuff, guys. Okay. And the method to the madness that the VA has leveraged is an excruciatingly disappointing one, where we know these guys, we know what they do, but when they come to articulate it to the system, if it doesn't come in a specific manner, if it doesn't look in a specific way, then you're right. They get literally denied, they get lied to. And sadly enough, I have seen it where, you know, my one of my brothers, he's a fucking Navy SEAL, dude. And what ended up for him was the same path that I had. There was nothing that our chain of command did for us to help us do this transition. Sure, there's programs. Those programs is worth a headache. Okay, the intentions aren't to prepare you; they're to check off boxes. What he experienced is exactly what, you know, we could put a stop to. Exactly what you're saying. Look at the policies. Look at the effect. Okay, the PACT Act came out, but now even that is being leveraged against veterans because we assumed it was going to be good for us, but its actual application, and this is the same thing for the American populace. When somebody comes out and says, we're only going to take your this a little bit, but when you start reading into what they're actually doing, they're reframing the entire structure of what is compensatory. Yeah. Right now, the VA and, of course, billionaires and industrial markets that are heavily leveraged in the military, they want to reduce their liability. Okay, that's the game we're talking about here. It's not benefits. It's not compensation. It's, in the eyes of these leaders, liability. How do I minimize my liability? Well, we make it difficult for like guys you're talking about to even make a claim. Here's the most important factor about that claim. 70% after they get a claim back, regardless if it was beneficial or not, will stick with that claim's decision making, even if they know it's absolute fucking bullshit. Because we've been so conditioned to accept authoritative narratives. It is something that is greatly leveraged against the veteran community, and I see it being leveraged in the civilian community just as bad. And it's very, very bad.
Now, Joe, you've been open about the dark places you've been, man. What was the turning point for you when you like reincorporated back into civilian life?
It was, you know, I haven't had that turnaround yet. What it's been is realizing that where I'm at is all I can do. It's very confusing. The darkness doesn't go away, right? It is terrifying. You know, the moment that relationships get difficult or the moment that I stop seeing progress or, you know, even when I have my flashbacks, because it's constant. I'll have my nightmares. It's constant. I fall, you know, it's very difficult. Now I'm going to be in a wheelchair because if I fall again, I could break something again or hurt something again. And the VA is refusing to even give me an MRI at this point. All of this stuff I'm paying out of pocket. It's a disgusting darkness that I'm living, right? The only way that I can say that I see something different, and this was my personal journey, ever since I came home from Iraq, I would open up my Bible, this one. Whoop. There's a bunch of stuff in it, of course, and it looks beaten and battered just like myself, because every moment, if something is coming at me and I can't figure it out, if my impulse is to either kill it or kill myself, which happens, okay, I say two things. Not what would Jesus do? That's great. But what should I be doing? And where's the solution? Where's the lesson in this? If I open that book up right now, it would scare us all three of us exactly what would come out because it's always going to be profound. I don't know why, but I have that connection. That's that relationship that's kept me going. If it's something where I don't see the positivity, okay, I do see myself as a burden to my family. That's the primary reason why suicide is always an option. It isn't because I feel as though I'm a piece of shit, I'm a horrible person, and I'm being selfish. I'm like, Dakota will say, you're a coward no matter what. I'm like, you're right. But that's not the reasons why I get pushed into that box of suicide. It's not, because the darkness isn't just death to a lot of men and women who've seen so much death. The darkness is actually living and sucking the life out of people by being a burden. If a man feels that way towards his family, whether it be he's an alcoholic, heroin addict, or let's just say he makes poor decisions, right? He gets over emotional, he overreacts. The man is the sole person that can make that shift, whether it be by coming to God like I did and being open about it, praising the word and saying, hey, I am a pastor. I've been a pastor for a very long time. Okay. But that's not my goal to be a pastor. My goal is to spread the love of Jesus Christ and Almighty God any which way I can. Yes, I say vulgar things and people will be the first one to condemn me, but you're a pastor. Yeah, motherfucker. So what? Like, what's your point? All right. When I was in Iraq, I always go back to the train station. It's called the Soul Train. Okay. I had my prayer beads. We would work at things out, me and the chaps and everybody, all the guys. When I came home, I had the same Bible. The number one thing that helped me remember that even in the midst of darkness, there's light within us was Luke 12:22. Do not worry about your life. And it goes on. But that's kind of where Joey at that time, right, 2006, was like, that's good enough. This little tiny thing is going to get me through it. I don't know how, but it's gonna. Every single time I've had a significant fall where it takes me weeks to get back up on my feet and walk, I have definitely had a plan to kill myself, because that burden that I become on my wife and my children, it's not something that I could remove. It's not something that can get better. And over time, like I said, ending up in a wheelchair, that's just going to get worse. The monetary stuff that I need to be able to operate a wheelchair in my home, the redevelopment of structure, the shower chair, right? The rails. I've paid out of pocket since last year. So we're up and down on all that stuff. That's darkness. But talking about it, saying, hey guys, you know what really sucks? It isn't that Joey is, trying to, really just destroy the VA. Not at all. I'm trying to optimize it. My goal is to be very open about my experience. So people go, well, that's definitely not what we're hearing from the VA. Of course not, because that's not how marketing works. That's not how authority works. The way it works is exactly how Frank P. Pearson here at San Diego Medical Center, or VA Center, whatever it's called, they made the decision to refuse care or else, right? And what that means is, even once I petitioned to Congress, even once I put in 15 White House complaints, put over 300 hours, my wife and I reached out to the chaplain, all these things to communicate. The refusal of care comes from a precedence and a priority to minimize liability, okay? What I experience is disgusting. And it nearly cost me my life to hear doctors that don't know anything about me say that they have it worse and this is nothing serious. The darkness that I went into, yeah, I did take actions. I got really close to killing myself this year. It was very difficult. But my wife has always been there. She's been my caregiver since 2013 after a suicide attempt. So there's a lot of different darknesses that people go through, whether it be physiological, emotional, or psychological, or spiritual. We have to correlate the facts that we have the opportunity to choose to pursue the light. That doesn't minimize your injury. That doesn't minimize or denigrate or disregard what it is you're going through. What it does is say, regardless of, I'm still going to choose to live in this moment, one day at a time, if that's what it takes, 1 minute at a time, if that's what it takes. The choice is, you're still going to feel the darkness. It doesn't go away. You're still going to have to talk to people about it, because sadly enough, much like myself, every doctor I get transferred to, they pretend like I'm a brand new patient. And I have to go back into that headspace and I have to communicate the darkness. And if I do not, they go, there's nothing wrong with him. And I go, exactly. I am presenting well because I've been conditioned and trained. I'm excruciatingly well educated in the medical system. And every time I have attempted to provide clarity, even to the staff of here in San Diego, directly to my doctors and directly to social workers, to the nth degree, even the chief executive patient experience guy, Robert Bott, real great guy, 90 emails plus, right? We can't even get a doctor to look at my medical record from the VA, who works at the VA, whom I just been transferred for the 4th time to in the VA. Why? Well, it's simple. There is no incentive to perform in a government organization. That's the darkness that I get to see. That's the darkness I get to play with, right? I call myself a spelunker because I've gotten to fall in all the different crevices and darknesses of the Veterans Affairs, to the point that at year 15, I'm intimately informed, right? I'm gratuitously, I have a lot of knowledge. I got a lot of knowledge. Okay. And in it, it's very difficult because when you look like me, right? When you come from a place like I do, you are not valid. You're not an authority. You're not a subject matter expert. You're nothing. And when society does push you in that hole, everybody, men, okay, out there, women that are out there, veterans that are out there, it doesn't matter if the place you come from was a veteran experience. When you're pushed into darkness and you're beyond your breaking point, do know that there's a way out. It's not permanent. Your feelings might be permanent, okay, until something changes. And the only way something changes is if we start looking for it. And if we never start looking for it, guess what the answer is going to be? It's never going to change. So it's kind of, go back to what is it that I do, or how do I, deal with darkness, or what is it that helped me get through it? It is following that path, a bit earnestly, a bit foolishly, but not, blindly, and in a way where I'm committed to it by saying, what does keep Joey on this earth? What does stop him from killing himself? Is it his family? Sadly, no. Is it his children? Sadly, no. Is it his God? Predominantly. But even then, I get my moments of weakness where I see myself as more of a burden to the very people that I wish to serve. That's the darkness that none of us are really sharing in the community. Okay. I've talked with great leaders in the community, wonderful representatives, senators, congressmen, you name it, right? All of them look at me and go, I wish I had the balls to talk up the way that you do, to speak up on what you do. I get messages from my brothers constantly. Hey, dude, thank you so much for speaking up for us in our community. When I published that article about the Washington Post, excuse me, it was based off of nothing else but facts. Where did these people who have such an authority, how come they're allowed to be so reckless in their yellow journalism, right? And it comes to the basis of actuality, impact. If I'm not a billionaire, it doesn't matter. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter even if I was, until I kind of input myself into a stream of effect. There's a lot more billionaires than the ones we're aware of. There's actually a lot more trillionaires than people are going to say out loud. But the moment that we look into what it means to fight through the darkness, it can't come from a without, like an external decision. I can never reach down and pick somebody up if they don't want to reach back out and grab me. Okay. If I drop a light down, it will take them to observe it in order to see it. Much like John Rambo when he got stuck in that little vein after they blew his ass up and he had to find the little outshoot. He took off his coat. He found some fuel. He wrapped it up, created a torch, went through the rats, screamed crazy because it was the rats biting him his balls and shit, right? And he makes it through. He gets up and he made the decision that all veterans know we have to make. He fought back. He stood the fuck up. He tried not to do anything, right? Me and my kid did a whole film synopsis and in a whole analyzing thing of it. If he made that decision just a little bit ago, John wouldn't be the character that he is. Okay. The officer tried to shoot him off the cliff. He didn't want to fucking kill him. Okay. The guy fell out of the thing. Now they're blaming him for killing him. The guy was disregarding orders. The very thing that, we were talking about is how important is it to follow orders? It's that important. It's that important. John Rambo and that little scene where the gentleman who's so angry, he just keeps popping rounds at the dude, and the helicopter gets a little bit of washback, rotor wash, and it tilts. And now, he's bleeding out. My kids were like, Dad, why is he bleeding so much? And I was like, well, it ruptured something big, probably the descending aorta, and it opened up, because as soon as that opens up, everything just comes out, dude. You got 5 liters in you, 5 pints or whatever, maybe 6, depending on how big you are. But that stuff's going to come out quick. Why? He didn't follow orders. Okay. This is where I will say, dude, following orders, even if they're an asshole, benefits everybody, because sometimes we don't understand the consequences of our actions before it's too late.
Wow, man, that's deep, dude. What's the funniest, dumbest, or wildest shit you ever saw in the military?
Okay, give me a minute. Oh
As
man.
he's going through the hundreds and ranking them right now.
Yes, it's like I,
Yep.
I just started Rolodexing. I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have any set parameters like the
No.
boundaries of fuckery?
Nah,
Okay,
man, it's unfiltered, man.
okay.
Anyone listening, just remove your children from the room. We're gonna get real.
Okay, yeah, that would be advisable. Okay, so this isn't secret by any means. It's not classified. It's just difficult to verify, I promise you. Okay. When we were deployed to Iraq, Al Qaim, Iraq, okay, it was a place. It was a location. All right. It's crazy, crazy. You know, we're 7 miles away from the Syrian border. That's where the primary insurgency is coming through, punching through and doing all their dumb shit, arms trades, whatever. People, everything, dude. It's a shit show. But nobody tells everybody about what we really do in the military. Okay. Nobody's going to share this stuff. When I was there, we were right next to a female barracks. Okay. Don't think this is actually a barracks. It's a wooden shack. It literally looks like a long ass tough shed. Okay. That's it. Shitty, like fucking tough shed. Okay. Non insulated, nothing. It housed the primary females in the entire command on this little base. I lived just next to it, okay? And behind us were where we had to go to get the porter shitters to go shit and piss and everything like that. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you need to go take a piss, first and foremost, you always got to stay strapped. It's just this part of the gig, okay? I don't like walking around unless I have my weapon on me, and I want to make sure that in case anything, motherfucker, we're in combat, okay? There's a lot of different people on this base. There's a lot of different fucking influences going around. I don't care. I get to the shitter, right? And I try to open the door, locked. Okay. Okay. Fuck. Go to the next one, locked. Okay. Next one, locked. Next one, open. Okay. Fucking finally, right? I get in there and I'm sitting there and I'm chilling. I get a knock. You ready? I'm like, who are you? Oh, my bad. My bad. Never mind. The whole shitters were used as a prostitution ring. Okay. The women on the base were making hand over fist money. Okay. And what I mean by hand over fist money, I mean fucking cash, dude. People were throwing paychecks at shit, right? Just to get laid. Mind you, do I fucking care? No, I'm not anybody on the base to give a shit. But all the other aspects of what was happening now, not only was there like a fucking confirmed prostitution ring, but now there was drugs. Right? There was alcohol distribution. There was a lot of nefarious shit. Okay. It's not classified. It's not secret. And if you dig into it enough, people will go like, oh my God, what happened? How did that happen? It's like, oh yeah, no, they did a drug bust. They did all the bust. And what is it called? The Reacher one, those guys, CIS or whatever they call crime scene. I don't remember what they're called. the Army's intelligence people came in and they had to conduct like interviews, and I mean fucking everybody. Mind you, dude, we're working mass casualties. Okay, like people are still getting blown up, people are still fucking dying, and people are doing operational shit. But in the midst of a war zone, this is where people forget that human beings are human beings. They may say, well, that's the reason why we hate veterans and we hate the military. I go, hey, try to be in a place that you're isolated, that any day you can die. And there is a vendor of philanthropic genitals. I'm just going to say, more than likely, you're going to try and stick your dick in it. First and foremost, these are Marines. These are soldiers, okay? These aren't, and I'm not nagging anybody, these aren't the cream of the crop, clean cut Boy Scouts, okay? Some of them, this was an option, either this or fucking jail time, dude.
Mm-hmm.
When you put somebody in a position where every one of their impulses is culminating into a poor decision, I would say that was the craziest shit I ever saw. Only because it went into so many different layers. It went into so many different things. And in the midst of it all, There was this fucking war. Like, people were dying, dude. But the urges, the truth of humanity, they breached that veil, right? The honor, courage, commitment was there, right? And of course, the right people got in trouble. Okay, everything was dealt with internally. There was even individuals with people like KBR, and of course these other industries, and MWR, right? Where there are individuals that serve contracts. Everybody has an urge. Everybody has a scratch to itch or itch to scratch. What I learned was that it doesn't matter if the circumstances are such and you allow people to do what they want, shit will be absolutely chaotic. Regardless if you want it to, you can do all the, the training, you could do all the integrity checks. But I promise you, when you get people in a room, and Washington, D.C. is just like this too, right? When they have their conventions, okay, when they have their conventions, dude, prostitution is like fucking number one. Where do I get invested in, right? Like, shit, between that and the World Cup or the NFL Super Bowl, it's like, no, but these conventions, you see an increase of all these black market illicit endeavors, whatever you want to call them. After that, dude, I never looked at anything the same, like, at all. Okay. You couldn't convince me that what we were doing out there was, I don't want to say it wasn't legal. Of course it was, because we made up the law as we went. Was it something damaging? Absolutely. These people in the region didn't have any medical facilities, period. We treated little girls and little boys and, women that were, injured, of course, and or sick. And we only had a limited amount of resources. So we did as much good as we possibly can. And what I mean by that is when you look at the dynamic of balance, it was purely balanced in the weirdest of observations. The works we did, the lives we saved, and the opposite, the lack of integrity, the missed principles, the application of true valor and integrity. But coming home, it painted a whole new perspective for me as a young man. I turned 21 out there. And I never drank. Okay. I never fucked anybody out there besides my hand. Okay. Promise that. All right. And I never judged anybody for what they did out there, because war is hell. Okay. It is the definition of everybody throwing out anything possible that's fruitless or useless for the most violent and aggressive actions of mankind. To not anticipate this, not anticipate the degradation of any, integrity, it made me reflect back to Vietnam. What we saw was a complete erosion of honor, integrity, trust, and the American people knew it. When they came back, the soldiers and the Marines or all of them, I shouldn't just say soldiers and Marines, but everybody that came back from Vietnam, they were treated poorly. And it had everything to do with how the media was portraying the entirety of the situation. That's not a negative thing, right? But when you do it in a way that does not speak to the truths of the individuals that are on the ground, yes, I told you a very inflammatory story. It's fucking crazy, right? But at the root of it, what it really establishes is that sense of humanity, even within the most rigid structures. Prison systems has the same thing. If you think you're going to root out drugs, prostitution, even in man prison, okay, even all male prisons, okay, you're not going to get rid of those behaviors. The only way you eradicate that type of behavior is by education and opportunity. When I got out of that situation, I worked in advanced research in developmental medicine, right? I used that day, those times, because it wasn't the only time I kind of knocked and something was going on. You could smell stuff in the air, a little bit of a hoo-hoo, right? And I never once questioned my integrity. I never once attempted to. It was this truth that I lived. When I was working in the research facility, and we were training people to do what I did out in Iraq and the STP, the knowledge of that complex situation, it will help you perform, because now you're not just doing it because you think you're a Boy Scout or you think you're doing the right thing. You're doing it because you effectively chose to do the right thing.
Yeah, man, I dig that. Dude, that's deep. That's wild. So, Joey, your platform is growing. People trust you, and so do we. What's the future of the Devil Doc Talk Show?
That was a great question, dude. Right now, there's a lot. The future, of course, is something that I think about plenty. Of course, it's a great distraction. It helps with therapy. It helps with, kind of seeing through the darkness. The way I see the show and the way that I'm taking it right now is it's the same way that we did it, but we are building something more effective. Okay. The goals that we have are to fully reach out and have this participation of engagement from as many people as we possibly can. The show structure that we created for the past, I think, about 12, almost 13 years, the production, the effective communication, and the overall impact. It's something that I never sat down and looked back at. I just was doing it. In fact, one of the comparisons I was just telling my brother James here that came over yesterday when we're working on his stuff. If you forget for a moment how heavy the pack is, and you keep your head down and you just start marching and you keep going, and you and your bros are talking, and before you know it, you're on mile 8. Before you know it, you're on mile 11. You're on mile 12. You're wrapping it up. Okay. The pain that you go through while you're doing that is exactly what we're doing with the show. We want to empower and entertain, but we don't want to entertain the way that other people do it. The goal is to have conversations like this with the opportunity to connect and bridge the community, to provide the means of balance and rational thinking, giving enough information to people for people to discern on their own, and to participate at a higher level of production. With 8X Entertainment, our company that we're launching full scale now, it's been my company for the same amount of time we've done, the Devil Doc Talk Show. But the goal with it is to do what we've done with the Devil Doc Talk Show and provide it with the means of entry for anybody that's looking to take podcasting to their next level, or start podcasting in their next level, or film, or TV series, or any kind of entertainment endeavor. The whole process of what we're building and what we have built, it provides for streamlined efficiency. It's the same tactics that I used in the military to provide a fully CAP certified laboratory in NFL Centro. All I know is what I know. If I create an SOP and I standardize what I'm doing, and we intelligently apply what it is we know how to do, then we can make a profound impact with minimal investment. The return of interest that the show has created on just our investments, with veterans alone, the community as a large, it's profound globally. It's something that I never anticipated, right? And now with that knowledge, what we intend to do is lead the community, not from a position of I'm trying to understand what's going on, but from the position of, hey, I'm going through it. I went through it and I'm still going through it. Okay. Because this is life. And if we could provide a means of a service or a product and develop a relationship with anybody, whether it be sponsorships with large organizations like Apple, Oracle, Anduril, Palantir, CACI, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, all these big hitters in the space, because their investment in what we do provides for the effect that I've already proven. The proof of concept's there. Now it's time to take it and fully create its actual authority in the space. So with the show, we're taking things, I've always taken things very slow with a calculated risk, a very great tactic. And now we're stepping out in that headspace. We're connecting the dots with these executive level persons, and we're branching out to bring in the encouragement of vulnerability and, of course, the open heart, open minds, open conversations. With it, I do believe that not only will the Devil Doc Talk Show remain where it has been, which is a staple in the consumption of podcasting, and it will remain as such, but that vivid truth, the authenticity, and the genuine mission and message that we've created not only is it palpable, it'll be repeatable. So kind of, going back to what we were talking about on the last show before we finished up, that middle out creation, okay, that industrial and manufacturing of a result where that efficiency comes from directly from the people. A lot of people don't pick up on the show, right? They don't catch that as we're having fun, as we're entertaining and empowering, we're providing levity, right? The goal is to provide enough levity for us to discuss hard conversations, hard topics, death, mayhem, suicide. But the number one thing that we will always talk about is love, how to be vulnerable, how to show it, how to receive it, and how to nurture it. That's where we're going. And, with 8X Entertainment, dude, I really feel that not only will podcasting benefit from it, but film, television, a lot of the executives that we're discussing projects with, they're impassioned. Their efforts have been slightly misguided, but it's this unique opportunity to step in and encourage redirection, not mandate it, not be an authority figure, but a participant on the shift.
Where can everybody find the Devil Dog Talk Show, man? So we can get our audience over to check your stuff out, man.
Perfect. So the primary means to contact us, if you have an inquiry, you want to participate, is the Devil Doc Talk Show at gmail.com. It's again, the Devil Doc Talk Show at gmail.com. That's the primary way that I get involved in any means. If you have a wild concept, if you want to touch base or connect for any reason, we have an open door policy, especially with that email. All our Instagram stuff, equally the same. Send us a message. The Devil Doc Talk on Instagram, Devil Doc Talk on X. You can reach me at LinkedIn. We have great resources to connect with there. It's Joey Devil Doc Talk Martinez. And the number one thing that we are pivoting into is our YouTube channel. I believe it's the Devil Doc Talk Show, but it could be Devil Doc Talk. I'll fix that later one day. And what we built out with that YouTube channel is creating a new avenue to connect with video. Primarily, we did audio for the majority of our years, but I find it important to bridge, to challenge myself, and to create something where others can see and not just hear. Because we do need to hit those talking points of, what does this look like? Who's this fucking guy? I hear him all the time, but what does he look like? Right? That's the primary pivot point. Again, the primary way that we could connect is the Devil Doc Talk Show at gmail.com. We have an open door policy. If you want to be a guest, by all means, shoot us an email. If you have a sponsorship opportunity, we'll review it. If you have a developmental opportunity, let's say a project that you want to get into a series, you want to develop as a full film documentary, all these executive level productions types of stuff, we can definitely connect the dots. We primarily act as a consultancy connecting the dots, but now we're moving into full scale production. We have great strategic partnerships, and that is where I get super excited. So primarily, again, it's the Devil Doc Talk Show at gmail.com. And if you guys have anything you want to discuss, if you guys want to work on a project, you guys want to learn more about myself or the show, go ahead and shoot me an email.
That's awesome, man. What's one last message for any active duty guard member or veteran watching this right now?
If it's pissing you off, ask why. If you can't ask why not. And if you can't ask why not, you have to understand that something's trying to control you. If it is yourself, if it is your influences, if you can't have a line of questioning like that effectively, you need to ask yourself, how dissonant are you really behaving in this earth? If it's something that is going to get you to post something online that may be detriment to your career, don't do it. Politics and social media is always going to be there. Don't waste your opportunity to serve. The service that you have right now is the thing that will carry you through everything else that you meet in this world, all the different challenges, all the different adversity. But those key skills, those absolute assets and tools that were given to you through the heavy investment of our nation since its development to now, the trillions and trillions of dollars that went into the training programs that created who you are, and also the current programs that are asking you to be vulnerable enough to communicate. Take full advantage of it. Don't minimize yourself. Don't hesitate any longer. The moment that darkness creeps in, you're going to be your own worst enemy. You're going to be a liability to yourself because of your training, because of your conditioning. Don't fall to a statistic that you didn't earn, that you don't deserve, and quite honestly, is quite preventable. If we don't see it this way, we will never stop 6,400 suicides a day. Oh, month. Sorry, year. There we go. I got all of them there. Month, day, year. Go. If you don't stop yourself, if you don't ask the hard questions, why do I feel this way? I think I shared pretty intimately that process. If you can't be vulnerable, okay, go through the checklist. Why is it? Is it actually not safe, or do I just perceive it to be not safe? Is it actually trying to control me, or am I actually controlling myself? What decisions am I making? What choices am I making? Break it down, Barney style. Semper Fi, do or die, never give up.
I like that, man. That's awesome. Well, this has been one of the best conversations we've had on the show, man. So, Joey, thank you for what you do. Thank you for speaking truth and for taking care of vets the way that you do. Everybody go follow the Devil Dog Talk Show, support the mission, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. And that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week, and hopefully from, content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.